I think that's super interesting conversation, because saying something like crypto skulls is like, I bought in because of the history of it, is interesting. But I think what people are doing is, now that we have the technology to understand when it was, created, brought onto the blockchain, people are saying like, I foresee this going down in history. That's why I want to purchase this, and using the term history, because Polly was in the space
Right.
too, saying like,
Which is
you
insane.
cannot use those words, it's just too new. So is that kind of what you're going at?
Well, yeah, I would like to talk about that kind of thing. I responded to Leonidas, who put out a tweet. He was like, "It's undeniable that crypto skulls. The one thing you can say about crypto skulls is that they are historical and important." Which I had a bone to pick with him about that, but.
Well, also the purpose of this space is that it's a little bit of a take on this, Bunzi, because it's tongue-in-cheek. We're not even talking about NFT history in terms of 2017 or whatever. We are actually talking about, the NFT historical perspective on, Q1 of this year. So we're sort of saying not only are NFTs worthy of the historiographical, perspective and looking at its history, even Q1 of this year is historic enough for us to, dive in and really look at it from a very academic standpoint. So it's a little bit of a joke here, but at the same time, history itself is kind of BS too. Like a lot of it is just written by the winners, as they say. So there's the now we're really wasting content, I think, as we get into this discussion, because the podcast recording officially doesn't start for a second here. But
this is true.
Who is to say that the amount of time that passes is better for history type things, right? Because the amount of time that passes is also, the amount of time that the winners can sharpen their pencils and get them really sharp and write history as they wanted it to be. So, when it is fresh, maybe it is a better time. There's a very famous book called Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is a history of Nazi Germany. And this is a book that received a lot of criticism at the time, because it was basically written by a journalist, not a historian. I mean, it's a long book. It's like a thick book, a good book. And it was written very close to the end of World War II. And people were saying, the Paulies of the day were saying, it's too close to the end to write this. Like, you should not be writing this. And you're a journalist.
Of the day.
And the guy was like, no, it's actually good. Sorry, what were you saying, Piv?
The Paulies of the day?
Yeah.
Back in the day?
Yeah. The criticizers of early history.
They also had Paulies.
There was a version of Pauli in every, epoch. I feel like, Pauli is more than just, a man. He was an archetype. There you go. Onto himself. So
by the way,
Paulies of the day.
Did we fall off? Are we mid now? Where's all the where are our friends? Why is no one coming to the podcast taping?
I feel like this is usually my role, and you say, "It's all good, dude. Like, once we get rolling, it's all fun." So I'm trying to embody you and say, "Hey, it's all good."
I feel nervous because someone was mad at me that I told them to stop shilling, and I wondered if I ruined the vibe a little bit.
No, it's good. People need to hear that. I was actually shocked when I saw that on my push. I didn't see the full thing because I was in it, but I saw this push of like something ... like an aggressive. I was like, "Whoa, Dove, fucking raining people in," which I appreciate. And we got to keep the quality up. It's a thankless job. No one ever is going to give you, credit for that. Not even me in this sentence. I'm not giving you credit. No, I'm giving you credit right now.
Okay,
give them the flowers.
Fair enough. By the way, this is just a random shout out. Piv and I, all three of us recently changed our profile pictures, which is, I think, like no in the Twitter rules. People, if you want good engagement, you have to keep the same profile picture forever. But all three of us changed it recently, and I like our current lineup. It's fun that Piv and I both have like anonymous, like shadow, unknown, undoxed PFPs, and then Middlemarch, you just got, bright, cheery face.
Yeah, professional
it's a good contrast.
I do like that a lot, actually, and even just you two together having two very different takes on the anonymous one, the lower fi, higher fi. For me, this was I think I'm going to go with this. I think it's fun to have creative pictures, but I think, I had this headshot taken. This was taken by a genius employee, a guy named Tim, great photographer, great guy. Camera was right up to my face. And this was a company that took me 12 years to build and then eventually sell, and also required, at the end, we got to about $35 million a year in revenue and had to raise about $85 million in total to execute all of this stuff. And so if you talk about expensive PFPs, this PFP cost $85 million to create, because I had to do everything to get the company to place, raise all the money. The background is a super expensive wall in our extremely nice Gowanus, Brooklyn office. And so you got to go with your most expensive PFP at all times. So I'm gonna rock this one for a while.
You are qualified. You're qualified to talk to Yieldosaurus, Mr. $100,000 PFP. You can speak to him.
Yes, this is way more expensive than his PFP. It's like, oh, Yieldosaurus, like, guess what? I can buy an ape for $100,000. Good luck getting this picture. You know what I mean? Like, how much would it cost you to produce another copy of this? Like this picture from a different angle. Go get that. Okay, not gonna happen.
That's
even
good.
For $100 million. I don't know how you do it.
I like my PFP right now. It's kind of spooky. I thought, no one has said this, but the intention when I put it as my PFP is that it's a left-facing hoodie. So I thought, this is my hoodie funk. But no one's made that. No one said that to me yet. But that was the intention.
It's because it's scary, bro. That's why no one's commenting on. I mean, people like scary, and I'm like old or whatever, but it's like foreboding to me. I guess that's the point. But like, it's like foreboding to me. Like the funk hoodies are just like bloopy bloop. Like I guess this is
yeah, it's cozy.
It's cozy. Does this look cozy to you? Nope.
No, mine is going for more Twin Peaks, Silent Hill, Resident Evil kind of thing. Yeah, it's cozy.
Kind of a raincoat. I think it's more of a raincoat than a hoodie is the other side of the coin. We got Matt Yak in here inviting him to speak just in case. Sometimes Matt Yak is in the car, as are we all. We got JPEG Poppy in here. What up? Outer Pockets. Never seen that brand before, but I must say I like it. That's a good looking PFP. Looks kind of like professional. And what else? We got the pod today. So in the pod today, like, let's just get it rolling, basically. In the last pod, I included all of this talk, shooting the S anyway, but we'll start the recording. We'll see what I cut out. So basically, let's do it. So hi, everyone. Welcome to the Capsule 21 podcast, filmed, or rather taped in front of a live Twitter Spaces audience every Thursday at 5 p.m. ET. Join us. Capsule 21 podcast is an NFT podcast. It's a crypto podcast, but there's also a podcast about life, technology, and everything else. It is run by me and my co-hosts. I'm Tom Lehman. It's my real name. I'm going by my real name now for the moment, but parentheses Middlemarch is my crypto name, and my two hosts who are known by their crypto names right now. One, Piv, the famous Piv. Piv_Piv is his name on Twitter, and Dovetail, who is D0VETAI capital I on Twitter. And we are Capsule 21. Capsule 21 is an art collective dedicated to the creation and celebration of timeless art, and timeless art in particular in the packaging, in the format, in the wrapper of NFTs, and in particular NFTs that are created using on-chain NFT technologies and approaches, because we believe that it definitely ain't perfect, but the Ethereum blockchain is a pretty good one. So welcome everyone. Today the topic is archaeology. How can we delve into the documents and the happenings from Q1 of this year, 2022, and understand the extremely historically significant events that happened in the NFT space then? And how can we also talk to the guests, who are all of you? The special guest is you this week. So tell me, Dovetail, why do you have the I as your final thing?
I always struggle with how to get a good name, and I understand that it's like harsh, but I think that it looks clean. Like when you visit my profile, it looks nice. Just username Dovetail, @Dovetail. All the permutations of it are taken. I DM'd the person who has @Dovetail, and they won't sell it to me. So I'm SOL.
Well, it's really ruining my life, but
Yeah, if
it
anyone
looks
has
good.
suggestions for what do I put in there? Do I dovetail artist, dovetail? It used to be dovetail NFT, but I didn't like that.
Yeah, you got to be global. So yeah, no easy answers. PIV, of course, simply stands for the revert. It stands for VIP. Basically, it's VIP backwards because PIV came into the NFT space in part through the CryptoFunk community, which is a left-facing thing. And this is my version, by the way. PIV has never said this to me, but I view PIV as his way of flipping the notion of a VIP. PIV, is that correct?
But yes, but it's also a real name, PIV. I think something Eastern European, but it exists as a name.
Yeah.
So
fantastic. I wasn't thinking about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this, what we are doing right now, is called history. It's called archaeology. That is basically when you look at the past and see what it can teach you. But unfortunately, there is no way to really know what happened in the past. So really what you are doing in history, this is, I guess, somewhat controversial in like the sort of modern understanding of history. I believe this is like correct. Is you were sort of reconstructing the past and describing how it could have happened, in a way that illustrates the dynamics at play versus telling you the actual play-by-play, which is unknowable and actually incredibly boring if you were to know it. But let's do it. Let's begin. So Q1 2022. So ETH was still in the 2K range. We were looking at, I believe, the Pixelmon thing had happened. What is your? Let's start with your personal journey. Starting with you, Piv. Talk to me about your personal historical perspective on Q1 of this year.
On Q1, I'm not sure, but I think I minted my first foundation on 6th January or something. So that's really beginning of this year.
So this was a huge watershed moment in, I think, all of our lives, because Piv started off as, kind of this mysterious figure who who is really the first person to kind of look at punk derivatives as, real pieces of art that had antecedents in the actual art world. I think that's true. And so Piv started minting these on Foundation. His most famous one, early one, was a Maryland diptych of the one punk's female punk's head with a blonde bob next to it. But there were a lot of iconic punks in this collection, and it's called OC. It's called Punkism. It is on Foundation, and basically, I guess I'm actually on it right now. The very first punk. Is this possible? The first punk was Wojak punk? That was the first sale?
The first one that I put there. Yes.
So this is an interesting thing. So Wojak punk, if you look at it, is a punk it's a one trait with a frown, which I don't know if that actually exists, and the punk is actually crying with red eyes. So what is the story? What is Wojak?
Wojak is the Uber meme, no? I think. But what happened is that Jack sent me this invite for Foundation, and he really liked Wojak, so that's why it's the first one.
So Wojak is basically, I'm looking this up now because I kind of know, but it's always good. I'm on Know Your Meme. So Wojak is basically this just generic guy who like cries, but also is the guy from the I wish I was at home playing video games meme, which is basically like the guy at the party, but then it's actually an NFT. It's like, they don't know I have like this famous NFT in the meme itself. So Wojak. So that was whatever. And then what came 6 Marylands, and then a string of and then actually Piv put out Invisible CryptoPunk, which was also, I think, a watershed moment in CryptoPunk history. what was Invisible CryptoPunk, by the way, is a square, is a blue square, a teal square.
Yeah, just the background, just.
And so, what was the, because this was sold for, let's check the ETH price at the time. This was sold for ETH price was almost 3,000. So this was sold for basically about 350 USD, so 0.2 ETH. You sold an empty square. This was in February. You sold an empty, or March rather, early March. You sold an empty square for $350.
Yes, these were different times.
Incredible. And then Pib went on to create something called and you can look at this in Punkism, on Foundation, something called Suprematist Composition with Parts of Funk 9517. And this was the first time that I really knew it's game over. This was a thing that I bought. So Suprematist is basically, it's not supremacist, okay? It's suprematist, which is, now we're talking about, real art history stuff. And it's basically a bunch of rectangles that are tilted, but the rectangles are the color of this one CryptoFunk, which is funny because it could be the punk also. We don't know. It's kind of a joke. We don't know if it's facing left or facing right. And so this was like Piv really getting into the game of like, okay, I know more about art history than anyone, or at least than Tom, knew. And that's why I bought this. I paid 0.2 ETH for this, but it was a pretty nice looking one. So, Piv, what gave you the idea to like get into this like, more intellectual zone?
Is it intellectual? I'm not sure, but I was just looking all the time what I could do with it, with the punks, and I like to refer to other works. So,
well, it's intellectual because, like, what's the word suprematist? Like, no one knows that word.
You think so? It's an art movement.
I didn't know the word. I think I know art
No?
history pretty well, and I was like, I had to Google it when I saw that.
Oh, that's sweet. But
all right, let's get
maybe
some
that's
reactions
more.
out there. By the way, this helps with the algorithm. That's not why we're doing this. Out there, react with a heart if you knew
No,
before this
say
episode.
don't. If you say don't know, then because more people will not know.
But react with a thumbs down if you don't know. Although that might be bad for the algorithm. Thank you, Bunzi. Yak is doing
down. The Twitter algorithm says no. Everyone's booing the space.
Leave
they don't
the
like
space and block me if you don't know. And that's actually good because I don't want. I do want. It's we're doing history here, but suprematist. No one knows what that means. That word has never been used in an NFT before you did it, Piv. I would just venture to say.
Maybe yes, but who knows Malevich?
Right. So
Kazimir Malevich.
Malevich, I knew about from like the knife grinder or whatever, like guy sharpening the knife. Doesn't actually look like someone sharpening the knife, but I knew him from like vague memories of like survey art history stuff. But I had not heard of suprematism, and I don't associate him with stuff that's this abstract. But
no,
yeah. And then you got some more Malevich stuff in there, and then you kind of so this was a super intense order.
The thing with suprematism is that it's they wanted to start art over again, so they started very simple with basic shapes, and they made it. It's mainly all Kazimir Malevich, but he wanted to gradually make it more complex.
And then he did the knife one.
But you have these basic blocks who are quite similar to the punk shapes.
So that's actually a very interesting reading of the whole punk movement to begin with, because maybe, and by the way, this was minted on April 6th, so it's not actually Q1, but we're going to allow this in the conversation. The punks themselves are really not so far from this. They are representational in a way, but they are doing it under not actually constraints, but like the perceived constraints of like blockchain pixel stuff. So yeah, really, I would say are the punks themselves suprematist compositions?
But I'm not sure if I was really the first one, but something I did in this period was really taking shapes out of it. So not traits, but like I did quite a lot with just the eye, because it's a nice abstract thing. And you also have the mouth of the female mouth, who are rectangles, nice rectangles, and you have them in different colors. So if you combine them, these colors, you have like something abstract. And I did a couple of these things in this period.
Right. Yes.
So not really see them as traits, but as abstract shapes.
Right. To really, deconstruct. I mean, I don't know if the word deconstruct is right here in the grander sense, but like, to kind of deconstruct it and kind of, and another thing I think you pioneered during this time period, or at least what you're talking about also pioneered, is like, what about the idea of just looking at these things really big? This is something where, I don't know if anyone's printed out a CryptoPunk thing, but the punks actually look pretty good when they're big. And this is something that's hard to really see on your screen. So it's, even though it's pixels, it's 24 by 24. It's actually quite cool, big, even when you don't have that constraint, of course. And so, by zooming in even further and then cropping in some of your other works, you can kind of create something that is, would look like a modern art, abstract, cool, like iconic work if it were like hanging in a gallery. And so, I think this is like a really cool thing, because prior to this, there was a great emphasis on the 10,000 punk array, because it was the array that was included in the contract, the hash of the array. It's on GitHub and people use it. People do a poster. I printed out a huge poster of my Fashionette Punks thing, which is a different project. It also came out in this quarter. But, the PIB approach was not to look at them all at once, but was to zoom in on one so far that didn't even look like itself. And I think that was not something that people were really doing before, or at least I hadn't seen it. So Q1, I think, was really just an absolutely foundational quarter for PIV. I didn't realize that you weren't even on Foundation until February. So aside from that, you had Excel punks, and what else? And the Sketchpad stuff on OpenSea.
Yes, I should look back on my Twitter what I was. But I did these with eyes, but I haven't really minted these. But a lot of eyes that are combined and a lot of different mouths that are combined. This was before that. But what you said about what you said about the one punk, that's also what we did with the Marilyn. I just thought about it this week again, that it's really nice to have one punk, and there are actually 25,000 different ones of this one Marilyn in the which is also Q1 project.
That was an amazing press. So let's talk about that. But first, I want to get into Dove, and I also want to just say that like it's very interesting when you look at the technology here, because now you have PIV, who was originally on OpenSea, and OpenSea has all these problems when you're minting on it. The main problem being it's not really an NFT. It's an NFT only when OpenSea says it is, because the way the contract is set up and the way the contract interacts with their website makes it so that if OpenSea doesn't like your thing, they can basically delete it. And also, even if they don't delete it, it is not viewable in a way that's like your own little part of the world, your own contract. It's just lumped in with everything else. And the software required to distinguish you from everyone else is not freely available. So if you're trying to make a website, it's really hard to do that. You have to use OpenSea, whatever. So OpenSea, bad. Now, Pib switches to Foundation, but Foundation also is bad. I'm really emphasizing this now because if you're out there, I used to not care about this, but I just completed a project for a great punk lover and scholar, Sove, SOV, Unreal Sove on Twitter. It's a project called Medallions, and in it we used Manifold for the contract. And so the problem with Foundation is, yes, you get to have your own thing, but you only get to do it one way, i.e., you go to Foundation's website, and you don't have to use their website, but basically the same functionality. You go to the website, you put up the image, you type in whatever else there is, and you say go. And so if you ever want to do something that is different from that, like for example, if a dynamic NFT, have an NFT that, references someone else's contract and pulls it in and paints a picture, an NFT that, shows the current time or whatever, any on-chain sort of thing, anything that's not just drag and drop an image, you cannot do it on Foundation ever, ever, ever. And so you're trapped here. It's not actually an NFT thing. It's for images. And I guess they do video, too. But if you have but Manifold, what's cool about Manifold, and now I'm advertising for Manifold, I didn't even like Manifold before this, is you can actually create a way to have a contract that mints from you create basically a helper contract that you can use to mint a different type of thing from your main contract while staying on your main contract. And so, your helper contract could, mint, a token and then have the token URI could be anything, you want. It could be a dynamic thing, could be a changeable thing, it could be anything. And Foundation can't do this because the only person who can mint is you, the owner of the contract, and that cannot be another contract. So, this is actually just like really sad because I have some interesting ideas for like one-of-ones. I want to do like an interesting like on-chain one-of-one thing. And Piv and I have actually talked about doing on-chain punkism. And we did a project there where it was the Maryland's Mole, but it cannot actually go onto the punkism Foundation contract, which is historic. Definitely historic as far as I'm concerned. So it's kind of a sad thing, but I think still very, 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 very good. But pro Manifold, anti Foundation, Dovetail. It didn't happen in Q1, but you moved from Foundation to Manifold before I even said all this stuff. So what's your story?
My story from Q1, yeah, that's the trend right now. That's what we're talking about.
You have to call it by quarters because it sounds corporate and it's like funnier.
Okay, yeah. Q1, well, really Q4 of 2021, but Q1 is when I kind of figured out NFTs and got really, dropped my whole life to do this thing, which, is, jury's still out if that was a good idea or not. In Q1, I taught myself Solidity, and I taught myself web development, and that was all to put out, and this is funny because it's kind of antithetical to my opinion or take nowadays, but we were creating a collection that was supposed to be like a good place to onboard people, and I was only in the space for 2 months, and I felt like I knew a lot. I retained information quickly, and I wrote all these tutorials on how to set up a MetaMask wallet and how to buy NFTs. And I set up, this big glossary of Web3 terminology with, I wrote all the definitions and I compiled it all into one place. And that was the idea. I was very excited about NFTs in Q1 of this year. I was very, very excited about NFTs in Q1, and I wanted to bring other people in. So, like I said, I learned Solidity, and I put out a collection that ended up failing. But yeah, that was my Q1, and that was kind of at the same time that I was getting really heavy into the CryptoFunk community, kind of finding my wings, making memes there. When does Q1 end? God, this year moves so fast.
Come on, don't ask that in this. You know when it ends.
No,
I'm
a military boy. My year goes in deployment cycles, not in business quarters.
How's your quarter going? How's Q1 treating you? That's what people say in my world. Yeah, the quarter system is very, very important. At the end of every quarter, there's a board meeting, if you are running a traditional company. But if you are just doing the JPEG thing, all you have to do is remember to talk about it later. It's funny what you say, Dov, about in the beginning, you thought you knew everything. There's a very good lyric. I've probably brought this up on the pod before, but there's a very good lyric in the Bob Dylan song, My Back Pages. I guess it was the Birds too. But in the lyric, he says, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
we brought this lyric up in the space before, but the funny thing is that I wasn't even really referring to thinking that I knew everything, because all the information that I wrote is still correct. I did fact checking, I wrote it very thoroughly. The main thing that I turned on was that when I was naive and in Q1, I was that Q1 excited. ETH was at 4K, funks were ripped up to 3 ETH. I was very excited. And I had the thought that I want to onboard people to this space, and I want to bring them in, and I want to teach them, and I think that everyone should get involved. And now, sitting in Q4, I no longer think that onboarding people is like a valiant mission, and I don't think that I want to onboard people as much as I did when I was younger and more excited. I guess we can say that.
You were older though then. It has to be within the framework of this lyric. You were older then. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, it also goes for history too. Like you maybe it's better to write history when you're more confident. But yeah, onboarding, like I guess I'm the same way. I didn't want to actually onboard anyone because I was just obsessed with like my own lived experience in it. I think it is more. Is it darker now, or is it just the time has passed? I mean, certainly everything's gone down, and every single person has lost money. But still, well, anyway, tell us more about the Q1 history lesson.
Well, yeah, I think that took up most of my Q1 because we launched that in February, and we ran it for about a month before we started getting 0 likes on tweets, and no one was reacting to my @everyone posts in Discord. So that would have lasted me until what, March? And all the while I was doing funky stuff. So if you want to see some of my early funk memes, which is what I was spending, 12 hours a day being a funk community member, really, because I didn't have a job at the time. I was just living off of like what money I had saved up. So I was just really doing full-time memes for funk community. And those are all in iApe's Git book. So in the funk community, there's a Git book that it's got a bunch of art and memes and stuff. There's a gallery section. It's like, I don't know, whatever. If you go to the Git book, you'll find a page that's just titled Dovetail. And iApe has compiled all of my really, really early funk memes there. And that was my...
I really started with funk memes too.
Sorry?
I started with funk memes too.
Yeah, I think we had kind of a shared thing. Well, interestingly, that Piv and I now are doing stuff on Capsule 21 together, because I think, seeing Piv doing like, oh, he's doing suprematist punk, he's doing fine art punks. And I realized like, oh, like I think, this can be more than the sum of its parts, what I'm doing here and what all of us are doing here in this space. People like to talk about funks being conceptual art or performance art or whatever. I was looking at Piv, and he was kind of, crossbreeding old art movements with new crypto art movements, and I found that very fascinating. I was finding it very interesting, all these ties between the new and the old. And it kind of clicked for me that I think that, we can take this space more seriously than memes. That's probably more Q2 action in terms of like where I was at philosophically. But Q1 was definitely like leaning into that and like trying to understand it more.
Totally. Yeah. So April 1st is the first day of Q2, by the way. So I know you asked me before, and I was vicious about it, but it's April. It's April 1st, and Q1 in the financial world is no one cares, because like you can always make it up in a later quarter anyway. So this is more focused on the art side. So I think this is good. I mean, I want to get into some of our projects and talk about some of like the insights and whatever, but I also just want to, hey, if you're all in this space, it means you were around in Q1, probably. If you weren't, I would love to hear what you were doing. If you were, I would love to hear what you were looking at and how things have changed. And are you older now or are you older then? So no pressure, but just request or get in the game and talk to us about your Q1 experience. Is it better to write history as a journalist right after something happened or an historian decades later? That's another question from the intro. The book Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, written very close to the end of World War II by a journalist. Was that the right time and place to write that? Is now the right time and place to tell the story of Q1? It's definitely not the right for Q2. That's two reasons. But who out there?
This is a good point. I think the only truth is that I can say, the only thing I can say for certain is that I am not standing in the same river that I was standing in Q1. This is not the same river, for sure.
Right. How's the river treating you? That's the the Q1 mantra. Yes, and the reason is because Dove is actually a different person now, also, and the NFT world has changed. As long as the ETH price changes a little bit, that's the river, changing. Basically, it's about ETH.
It's at what, 1,200 today?
No, not. This is a PG-13 space. This is not. That's actually, you're good to say that because of your avatar, the dark hoodie person telling me I'm out of money.
I can bring the doom and gloom. Yeah, if anyone wants to request this speak, just do it, and we'll bring you up here.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Bunzi.
What's up, Bunzi?
Not too much. I think it's super thought-provoking to think of, as we chart quarters or however we want to move through this. But I don't know if it was before the recording, but Middlemarch had mentioned, history can get, changed and altered based on the winner, which is historically true. Like history, said in that manner is like the victor writes what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. But I think now, even reflecting, everyone on stage in NFTs is inherently more honest because there is fact checking. So I think moving forward, like history is going to change with this type of technology because there's a reference point now. There is provenance. There is fact checking that isn't biased. So I think that, putting that into the conversation is a very, I don't know, I think it changes the way that things will happen.
No, I mean, I think this is a really good point, actually, because if you look at, history, right, and history's got all these problems. It's written by the victors or whatever. The winners are writing it, and the winners are not only writing it, the winners are the one reading it too, because the losers aren't even around to object, and so it's problematic. At the same time, the alternative to history is philosophy, and philosophy, when you just go around saying like philosophy is on stuff, you might get yourself into trouble because you don't actually know if it works, basically. So the nice thing with history is it offers you the chance to say, this thing, here's what happened. This, maybe you're wrong, your history. You can just say this thing worked or this thing didn't work, and let's go, by that. And I think, that capability when it comes like Ethereum is a pretty big, advance to say like this thing happened. Like if you want to say like a simple example, I always use when I'm telling people about blockchain, why it's like cool. It's just the example of a timestamp. Like if you want to be able to say this thing happened at this time, if you want to just have any notion of this time, it's like without the blockchain type thing. It's like, who are you going to trust? You're going to trust the clock in your computer. These are all run by companies, all this kind of stuff. The clock on your on Google Cloud clock service, run by monopolist Google. And then even beyond that, the ability to just say something. Like there was an NFT project that I saw, which I thought was really cool, and maybe we should just like literally copy, because I remember seeing it and thinking like, oh my god, like I can't believe they came up with this good branding, like darn it. But of course I've never heard of them since, so probably could just do a derivative of it. But the app is, the NFT was called I Was Right. So basically you write down your prediction as an NFT on chain, although it wasn't actually on chain for their thing, it was weird. Write it down and then you can check later and see if you were right. And that is something that I think is actually like pretty good with the whole blockchain thing.
I did this on the Forever message. My first Forever message says something to the tune of I think that I am early to Capsule 21. which I
That's right.
think
Of
is
course, Forever Message, the app that I made, is kind of like this.
yes,
Actually, it's not branded. I was right, but you can use it like that. Yes, thank you for that, Dub. I actually think of that sometimes and think like, damn, I better like work hard. I don't want to. That's the problem with predictions. You know, it's like I don't want to let Dub down and reduce the value of this message. Forever Message. If you go to Forever Message.xyz, you can write a message that will last forever because it's stored on chain. Is my first thing, and that was in Q1 actually. That was like early Q1. The actual first thing was a note to my daughter, but I'm not going to tell you what NFT that is because it's private. Nothing's private. You can figure it out. But writing something down and having it last a long time and not be tampered with, you know, is a pretty cool thing. Because if you're actually trying to like predict something, where do you do it? You know, where can you say I was right? And so yeah, so I think people who are thinking about history of the blockchain, it's also just like, yeah, the ability to, make it, not like make history, but to record things in a new way, I think is quite interesting. And, I just always love looking back because everything just looks so, different. There's nothing like looking back to give you the wisdom, no matter how much you philosophize, you can never get the same wisdom, in my opinion. So, more wisdom's good. Bunzi, have you created a Forever Message?
I just want to say something. What you said remind me of a Twitter that became pretty famous because it had predicted the death of the Queen
Yes.
2 years ago on the day. Yeah.
Yes. That's
but
a great
probably
call.
how he did it was he kept his profile private and tweeted like many days and then deleted them all and just kept this one and then became public and retweeted it and it went viral.
That's amazing. So is that like a meme theory of how this happened? Because I saw it. I didn't think of this theory. It makes a ton of sense now you say it. I love it. Did you just invent that theory? I love, or is that a meme theory? That makes perfect sense.
It's I don't know, but it's a meme theory. Yeah? I think it happened like that.
Wow. This is a great theory. So this is like the iconic example of this theory, and this is called like sample bias or whatever. The iconic example of this theory is you get a letter in your mail and it says, ETH is going up today. Okay, and you say, forget this, who cares? And you notice that it went up. You get a letter tomorrow that says ETH is going down, and you know, wow, this is right. And then it's right like 10 days in a row, and then it's right like 20 days in a row. It's telling you always whether the closing price of Ether, the native cryptocurrency of the Ethereum network, always it tells you, is it going up or going down? And it's perfect. And then the 21st day it writes and says, listen, you're going to need to give me, $5,000 for me to keep giving you this information. And you think, well, what are the odds that this person could be right 20 days in the row unless they actually know something? And of course, the answer is, the first day, they sent it to, 1 million people. And then the second day sent only the 500 people that was right, and only the half of that was right. And so you're always going to have some correct things when you make a prediction that's 50-50. So you just double down on those correct things. And in this case, you predict the Queen. This is
I love the idea of Forever Message. And I think we do that with our trading, right? It's like if you have conviction in a decision, you hold on to that. And if you lose conviction, you don't stand true to your statement. But I like it because it gives you a reason to put your mark in the sand. Otherwise you can just put a bunch of stuff in Forever Message, right? But I do like that thought. It is interesting to go back to.
Right. And I think the key of Forever Message and this is also related to like the classic, it's really interesting idea. I think this is like a really good meme here, this Queen is dead thing. So another iconic episode in NFT history that, we'll just call it Q1 adjacent, was basically the old listings bug, as it was called in OpenSea, where people could buy unlisted items, quote unquote unlisted items that were unlisted in OpenSea's UI by using the signatures that corresponded to their old listings, which hadn't been invalidated. So that's a kind of a somewhat weird way to explain it. But the idea is, can someone buy something that you once listed, even though it's not visible on the site? And the reason that this sort of thing is possible is because because listing on OpenSea is not a blockchain interaction. It's just a click. It's free. That's why it's free. And the way it's free is it is based on a signature, which is based on like you cryptographically saying, hey, I'm offering this for sale. Like this is X. I'm saying X. And there is no way for someone else to impersonate you, right? When you say with a signature, I'm saying X. But there is also no way to determine whether you still mean X, whether you wanted to withdraw X with a signature. There's no, without a blockchain is a chain. It's like, you get sequential transactions. Did this transaction come after this transaction, right? Did the transaction to cancel the order come after the order was created or not? If the order came after, then the order is still valid because it wasn't canceled. But if you're just doing signatures, if you're signing things, you are not impersonating. You cannot be impersonated, but it's harder to be proven wrong. And so likewise with this tweet about the Queen, it's not like someone, got access to this person's Twitter account. It's not like Twitter, he went to Twitter and got them to fake this tweet. That's not required. All that is required is to lose the history of what else he did that contradicts this. Whereas in the blockchain, if your account, you go to Etherscan, you see what an account does, you see the exact history. They can never say that things happen in a different order. Some things happened, but some, didn't. And that is a really, really, really powerful thing, not just because we can hold people accountable, but you can also pre-commit to holding yourself accountable. Like if you wanted to actually predict when the Queen was dying, if you wanted to do that, I mean, it's kind of a dark thing, but we're using an example. If you wanted to actually make a prediction, you want other people, even if you're not going to cheat, suppose you are totally honest, you still can't use Twitter because you can't be certain that other people will believe you. So, how do you do that? Like you use a system where, there is an order, and this is kind of the magic of the blockchain, the consensus aspect. Like we all agree that these things happen in this order, but without consensus, it's basically, BitTorrent or whatever, which is also, cool. But if you put out a BitTorrent saying, I'm predicting the death of this famous person on this day, there's no way to verify that that's your real prediction, or if you've done it, 1,000, times. So yeah, I think someone who's looking at Twitter and saying Twitter's pretty good, I'm not worried about Twitter not being a good historical record. They're ignoring, that fact that, someone can delete the wrong predictions. And if you make a lot of wrong predictions about a thing, that dilutes the importance of the right prediction. So I love that. That's an amazing, illustration as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
did that tweet happen in Q1? Or what is the Q1 relevance here? No, it's fine. It doesn't matter if the tweet happened in Q1.
Well, on that note, if there is one, what would be your hot take on any topic right now that you would put into a forever message?
Whew.
Leonidas is a scammer.
Oh my God. Don't put anything like that in a forever message.
That's my forever message.
That's forever? You want to say that?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, what if he goes on to be, Nobel Peace Prize winner, humanitarian?
No, dude, I call out his game every time, and people always give me shit for giving him shit, and then it turns out that I'm right every time, all the time. It always happens for the last year since Q1.
Since Q1, that's funny. All right, well, now you've got my attention. Attention.
It's buzzing.
We're in the game. I mean, I did get airdropped the Lineage name service thing for both Capsule 21.
Yes, I did too.
March. Wait, you did?
Yeah, someone sent me dovetail dot whatever the fuck it is.
Well, if you think that's cool, wouldn't you like to have Yunks from this fake thing? Wouldn't you like to have Vertigo Punk? Sorry, Piv, because I have all of these. I got them for free. Thank you, BenBit. I'll take it. BenBit's in this room. BenBit's in this chat. Oh my God, dude! Thank you.
Thanks to anyone for sending me. Thanks to anyone for sending me stuff. I mean, having dovetail dot whatever is cool. But in Q3, I said in the Capsule 21 group DM, I think I was talking to Dao Bao and one other person, I don't remember right now, about Leonidas, and I was giving him some crap, and they said, like, what is your beef? I said, look, these guys who call themselves NFT archaeologists or historians, um, they're sitting on all of their findings. It's not that hard to go back in the blockchain and find cool old stuff. Like if you spend the time to do it, I think you could do it pretty easily. And Leonidas and Co. They find these old projects and they have a big list of them, and I think they just kind of wait until the moment is right and until the time has cooled off from the time that they kind of revealed the last one, and then they decide to issue a new one. It's like they're issuing a new project of their own, that they kind of get to benefit and profit from, but they keep it on a schedule. It's not like they find something and then immediately show you as soon as they find it. They sit on it for whatever time they want to sit on it for.
Yeah, I mean, look, in response to that, I would just say, too, and first of all, I don't know this guy, but I had some good conversations with him in merge-related spaces, and he was very open to my anti-merge pill, the merge is a bad thing, takes, which puts him in the 0.0001% smartest people out there, because, I see you merge sheeple. Here's one thing I've been thinking about. So you have the sheeple. Sheeple is a cross between a person is a cross between a person and a sheep, right? So it's half person, half sheep. But what I'm curious about is now, with the degree of conformity we are now seeing, even within the crypto space, what if we had the idea of, okay, we took a sheeple and we crossed it with a sheep. So we crossed it again. So you had 2 parts sheep, 1 part person. That is, I think, going to be the new symbol of conformity, because half sheep, half person does not get far enough in terms of conformity. So what could be the word for a half Sherson, half sheep? The combination there, because that's what you all were, listeners of this. Sorry, when you were supporting the merge. But what do you think, Bunsy? You unmuted for a moment.
A beta sheeple.
A what?
A beta sheeple.
Beta. Yeah,
not...
the alpha beta thing. I mean, I think it'd have to be like she, like, because sheepy.
Well, we can just put
like
a hyphen. We can hyphen, or mixing 3 words into one. That's like Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. We have to get
like
Drake
a
in here.
She is basically. But anyway, there are a lot of conformists out there, and Leonidas was doing some spaces and had some good conversation. He brought me up, so I'm definitely liked him in that thing. I don't know much about him outside of that, but again, not a lot of people were down to any dissent at all. The merge, God, I hated it, but I accepted it. Whatever. So, but what I will say is everyone's pumping their bag, like it's just like anyone and you should disclose it, ideally you should say, hey, I think this thing's good. By the way, I own a lot of it or some of it, but just like, I think, and in the beginning, it's easy not to understand this. Certainly I was buying all kinds of stupid things. I wish I had gotten smarter as the value of ETH went up, but the issue where I stopped buying garbage, now it's lower. The point being, you should kind of have some amount of buyer beware. I mean, I think this Lineage domain service thing is certainly, if not a good like investment or whatever, is certainly like an interesting like meme or whatever. It certainly made its way onto my meme radar.
Sure.
And I was like, huh. And I own some now, thanks to Ben, my dude. Anyway,
I think it just rubs me the wrong way when you do that kind of thing, and then they were like releasing hoodies for it. They were .og hoodies, like on day 2 of them discovering this thing. It's like there's no way that you already have a hoodie drafted up the day after this even becomes a thing. So clearly this is like a coordinated effort between a couple of people. I don't know. It's a pump. It's a pump, which is fine.
At the same time, are you? What about the critics of you, Dovetail, who say, when are you releasing a hoodie?
Hey, those are coming. I don't know.
Yes.
I haven't taken any money for them. I haven't even designed them. They exist only in the mind of Dovetail.
Take my money.
I don't have an address to ship them to at the moment. That's the. I'm like homeless.
Ship them to me. Anyway, no pressure. I'm not going to even wear the hoodie probably, but I do want to own it because I think it will be historically significant. Sorry,
Yeah, you got to take a picture of the FedEx box open and then mint that to the blockchain.
Yeah, I'll unbox it essentially. I think that's fine. Basically. But yeah, I personally, speaking for myself, I've become much more nervous about the concept of forever message, to be honest. And this is something that everyone told me when I was pumping it out. Like, what about, do we really want people to say things that last for, what about people saying, bad things about other people, bad things that don't seem bad today that will become bad. They're saying bad things that they regret, like this Lena's thing. Maybe I'll regret that. He's not actually doing it at this moment, but it's a tricky thing. At the time I was like, no, truth, anti-censorship. But, uh, the more stuff that you is stuff an asset or a liability? It's like one of the key questions of modernity.
It sucks, man. There's stuff that you have on the internet from your okay. I'm a Zoomer. If you knew my username that I used when I was like 10, you would be able to go on the Minecraft forums and find 12-year-old Dove talking about Minecraft on a forum. And I'm talking about I'm giving my music takes, I'm giving my video game takes, I'm giving takes on going to school. It's very embarrassing. I'm very
Yeah, well,
I'm very
there's
embarrassed
worse than like being a
on the
nerd or
internet.
whatever, by the way, but true. I see what you're saying.
Right, but there's embarrassing shit. Even if you go on archive.org for my current Twitter account, you can probably find, I mean, even if you just scroll through Twitter, I mean, my first tweets on this account were shilling for little baby cool cats. That's not on brand. That's embarrassing. But it's do I wish I could delete it? Sure. Should I? Who knows? Maybe that's good archaeology one day. Who knows?
Yeah, I would say it's all liability, in that sense. It's just there's no good that can ever come from it. It's kind of the issue with the stuff that you're talking. I mean, it doesn't seem that bad, by the way, anything you just said. You didn't not to get into like the semiotics and politics of even the word cancel, but like just, and speaking as someone who was once the CEO of, a 120 person company, which is not very big at all in the grand scheme of anything, but enough to like, you have a certain amount of scrutiny, a certain amount of what people say, what people think about you matters, basically. Like you can't just say, I don't care what people think about me, because like if people don't like you and you're the CEO, then they maybe don't want to work for your company. And what you say matters, and what you have said, matters. And the crucial thing here is there is no nuance and context when people look at this kind of thing. So, one very common, thing is to say, hey, like, what's the point of privacy if you have nothing to hide, right? This is like a meme. And then the meme is like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Like, of course. And like, why do you close the door when you go to the bathroom or whatever? But like, to me, it's like, why really is that, the case? And to me, the case, it's true because, it's not that you have nothing to hide. This is kind of an analogy to the Queen thing. It's not like the guy faked the tweet. It's what are the other things out there that we're not, seeing about the Queen. It's not that you have something to hide. It's that you cannot show. When you don't have privacy, you cannot show. People can see what they want to see. They don't have to see the full picture. So if you had no privacy, but people were forced to read and understand the entire context around something before they judged you, then maybe that would be okay. But it's really the lack of the ability to show versus the issue about what is there that creates the problem, because there are things called jokes and there are things called irony. And so if you are viewing something, especially on a Minecraft forum or something like this, and viewing one tiny sliver of that and do not have the interest in reading the rest of it, you could probably make it look bad because you're missing some jokes and irony. So if you want to ever be able to joke, you want ever there to be ever meaning beyond the literal words constructed by someone who hates you, then you need to have privacy. And if you need privacy, you can't have your entire life history, on the internet for anyone to look at any time. But Forever Message is also a cool app. So where's the paradox here?
Lest the aliens not realize I was being ironic by saying I liked iCarly. Okay, aliens, I was making a joke. I didn't watch.
Sure.
I watched cool boy shows when I was 12. Okay, alien, you don't have the full context. Get out of my life. That's
Yeah, I
not
mean, it's funny because, with the aliens, the fantasy is that by the time people do that, you're dead, or at least cybernetically,
right.
whatever. Like the dream is that you're dead and no day. But you don't say, "Oh, hey, future employers, look." It's like the on-chain thing and the Council 21 website and the about. We talk about the aliens. We talk about releasing art that will live a long time and that an alien can see and maybe evaluate differently than we evaluate. And it's kind of this interesting rhetorical device. But we don't say is, any future employer we would have will, now have the perfect way of seeing, if we did good art. And ideally, we are not doing anything, too controversial on there. But what is the point of art if you're not going to do anything controversial, So asking for a friend. But,
yeah.
I think when it comes to forever message, I think this is a big problem. And, I think that it extends beyond, I think there's a very interesting idea that we've been talking about in Capsule 21, which I still think is a very interesting idea. I still want to figure out how to do, which is basically enabling, kind of similar conversation we're having here, enabling like deep conversations around, art, NFTs, everything, and how to think of this maybe as an expansion of the forever message idea, which is to say, hey, let people make, the dead famous person prediction for real by putting things on the blockchain. So if you think, as an example, if you think Piv's Invisible Punk is an historically relevant NFT, you could do that in the Bunzi style, enshrine that view by trying to buy it, but maybe that wouldn't happen because the person doesn't want to sell it. And so that's one message you can send. Or maybe you could write a note about that somehow and attach it to that and say, hey, this is my, prediction, and my prediction is backed by this explanation of why. And this explanation of why is going to come out, later and look really good. And I'm going to make an NFT out of this. Mirror has a similar service to this, which is basically like Medium, which I just published a great Medium article, by the way, if you want to see it. Mirror has a great service for this, which is one that allows you to write a Medium post, but have the post itself go on Arweave, which is not the same as Ethereum and whatever, who cares, but lasts a long time and can't be deleted, by within the rules of the protocol, unlike Twitter. It's kind of a scary idea. Like, do you want to write a long post and then it's around, forever? Like, do people, want this? Do I want to encourage, it? There is this, I'm very scared of the forever message thing now versus my when I was older back then, when I thought, no, the censorship thing is way worse. You can't have Google around, like blah blah blah. Like now it's like, do you want to actually be held accountable, for the wrong predictions, that you make? That's brutal. I'd prefer just to get credit for the correct ones, like the guy on Twitter. I mean, certainly he did something right, or they did something right.
Yeah, why did OJ Simpson write a forever message that says "I did it"? That seems
Right.
weird. Why did he put that on the blockchain?
Yeah, one of the craziest things of all time. Well, I mean, yeah, the good news is we already know what happens when a famous person does something, where that it's, if you want to know what it's like for you to write a forever message, just look at what happens when a famous person does anything. It's impossible to
Oh,
ever
I
delete it,
know. Oh, this
ever
is a
get out of
good.
it. So
Maybe this is a good chance. Maybe I don't know if everyone's following this this Kanye West stuff, this Ye West drama. It's pretty crazy. Thank God that it might have been good. If you're a bad person, then I encourage you to put your bad takes on the blockchain so that I can cancel you in 5 years.
But
That's
what did I just say about the? I mean, I don't have to say about anything about the Kanye thing, which I don't even know that much about. But there is, there's no such thing as a bad person because of the same river twice meme, and there's no such thing as being able to see anything about what anyone ever did because you can't see the whole context. So, I don't want to know anything about
right.
anything ever.
Yeah.
Everyone is
No
the
education.
same. Everything's the same. I know nothing.
Yeah, everyone's trying to educate in the Web3 space. We need to remove information from our brains.
Yeah, I'm just trying to educate in the Web3 space. I'm trying to onboard. Onboarding, very, very difficult to do. Not just the Web3 space, even at a Web2 company, something I struggle with in my old job because, and this gets back to the history thing too, when you write the history, you try to really organize it, whereas in reality, it's a mess and is impossible to describe and way 10 billion times more nuanced than you could ever describe. And so, versus having to like replay every second of life 50 years ago, which is not
Yeah.
possible, you simplify it and ruin it. And that's the same thing with knowledge about, a company or a beautiful, Web3 space. But, you got to get onboarded somehow. I wrote a Medium post today about it. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Read my Medium, everyone. Read it. If you don't learn something, I'll give you $1,000. That's my new perspective. Like, come to me and tell me you didn't learn something. If you knew all of this already, and then, we can talk. We can make a deal.
Hey, I'll take you up on that.
Hell yeah.
Wait,
Yes,
so
money.
we're on onboard. Are we done bridging the gap?
What do you mean by bridging the gap?
I don't know. We were talking about onboarding and, we're at that phase, but are we done? I hear a lot of people bridging the gap.
I don't know what that means. I think, right now, everyone who didn't participate in Q1 of this year is kind of like laughing at the people who are still here, which is, whatever. They earned the right. They said that the bubble was going to pop, and then it popped. So kudos to those people. I mean, I don't want to mention the fact that there are still PFPs that are worth $100,000 and whatever, if they're real or not real floors, whatever. But I don't think people don't want to come into a market that's doing poorly, right? So onboarding is harder than ever. The people who are here don't want to onboard because they're disillusioned and saw that everyone just got scammed all year. And the people who didn't participate in Q1 just see that everything's gone poorly, so they don't want to join either. That's kind of my negative, pessimistic take. I think it'll take some time before people feel comfortable, dipping their toes in the Web3 water for the first time.
Yeah, but dude, what about the builders, dude? The builders are in a different class.
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you came in, shout out Chopper. Okay, if you came in and said, "Hey, I want to, make money," right? Then yes, you didn't make money. Sorry, everyone in this room, you all lost money. But if you wanted to come in and say, "Hey, I'm interested in technology. I want to build something cool, and I also want to build something cool and actually different," then you might have made a lot of not money, but whatever that is. If you think about like the funk auction house, to use an example, just again shouting out, Chopper here. It's like, how do you make an auction house in Web3? Is that different from the way it works on eBay? Like, how do you make an eBay? Like Web3 actually is a pretty good way to make an eBay with an auction house. Now, obviously, people don't like to use Web3 for generic auctions like on eBay, but it is a pretty cool, pretty cool piece of functionality. And you can kind of learn that and the theory behind it and position yourself to build something even cooler just by, looking out the window. And, one really cool thing, and I'm going to bring it back to me here. Sorry, Chopper, I'm shouting you out, but bring it back to me here. One very cool thing about an auction house in the Web3 world, that the one that Chopper built, the Funks auction house, is when you bid, the person who you outbid, like if you bid 10 and Dove bids 20, then if I bid 10 and Dove bids 20, then in the same stroke, where Dove bids the 20, I will get the refund of the 10. So I don't have to go check my whatever it is, in my Web3 inbox, which doesn't exist, and find out where this website is and go and withdraw the money that I have available, which is how Not Larva Labs works. Sorry, Chopper. Now we're talking about the other side. But
seems inconsequential, but even friggin' dang Foundation can't figure that out. You got to withdraw your money from Foundation. They're like a big website. They're like a big, they're big.
Yeah. You have to withdraw it. Like, that is not fun. So with Chopper's thing, the new thing, Kenobi wrote the contract. Shout out to Kenobi. And the old thing is the old thing, but the new thing, you get the refund at the same time. It just pops into your, wallet. And you don't have to worry about it. And this makes bidding a little bit more expensive from a gas standpoint because you have to do another thing. Now it makes getting a refund less expensive, and so you might think that getting a refund should be the cheap thing since you just lost. So why make a loser pay more? The loser should be, coddled. But the reason that the refund process is not often done is because it's not considered very safe to send Ether to someone, which is weird, right? Because that's like the main meme of the whole blockchain, like sending the money. So if you want to do this, if you want to be able to send Ether, versus forcing people to withdraw it, I encourage everyone to check out my Medium post, which includes some code that is basically taken from the CryptoFunk auction house, which I should note in the post. Actually, how do you send Ether? And one thing I will say about sending Ether, just to give you a sense for it, is when a contract sends Ether to a contract, or when you send Ether to a contract, that contract is allowed to do anything in the same transaction that send happens. So you know how some people say like, oh, like this was a cool mint. I just sent Ether to this contract. I didn't have to, do a contract interaction. I just sent Ether. It's like, well, yes, that is more convenient, but it is no different from a contract interaction. If you go to a website and see a button that says connect wallet, you've never seen the website, you connect the wallet, and then you see a thing called transact, and it's a transaction, it pops up contract interaction in your MetaMask. Do you say confirm? Probably you don't say confirm in that case, right? Because you've never seen this thing before in your entire life. But that is the same thing that is happening when you send a contract Ether, or when a contract that you wrote sends a contract Ether. It's the same thing. And so just that, you might want to be careful before you just go do whatever. You might, interacting with any contract, you might want to be careful when you send a contract ETH, because it's the same thing as just saying, hey, do whatever you want, and you can do bad things and lose, billions of dollars. So if you want to understand this and get ahead of everyone and, benefit from Web3 as a builder, whether or not Ether is going up or down in value, you're benefiting as a builder, which you can always do. You should read my posts, and it took me a long time to write this. So you better like it, and I guarantee you will learn something. So this goes out to you, Bunzi, and and also everyone else. But yes, losing money is brutal though, no matter how much you like learn about like nerd stuff, so there's got to be a way to to make money. So what's the next chapter in making money? Does anyone have an idea for how to? Oh, shout out to Joel Rivera, who is rocking the official, unless that's a rip somehow, an official PIV default punk 1 of 1. Shouts to that move. Good job. Does anyone have any ideas about how to make money?
Buy low, sell high. Is that? Do people still give that advice?
Yeah, no, it's good to.
Or in Q4, is that bad advice?
Yeah, we are in Q4. October, November, December. Yeah, that's Q4. And yeah, buy low, sell high. Well, that is a way to have a capital gain, right? But having a capital gain is not the same as as making money. You can just buy low and high, and then you've something good has happened, and you can maybe take out a loan, against that collateral. So you actually don't have to sell even to make money. All you have to do is high. You don't just buy low, high. That's the simpler version. Thank you, Bunzi.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's incredibly, incredibly difficult and basically impossible to do that. So
yeah, I think
what is the other route?
No, if you want to make money, just get good at something. Just be really, really good at doing something. I don't know, anything, whatever. Learn how to do Photoshop. You probably can learn how to mix an audio recording, and then Capsule 21 can pay you $50 a month to. That's like such a low ball. It's like insulting. We can pay you an amount of money to mix down our podcasts and put them on Spotify. Like you can do. I don't know. Everyone in Web3 is trying to do something. So just do something that helps other people do the thing they want to do. And then, that's like boomer advice, but it's
no,
good.
I know it sounds cliche, but it truly is, especially in the current state of the market. It's like buy low, get high, and forget about it for a while, because because like, yeah, I don't think this is making money directly 1-for-1 is a difficult thing to teach someone to do in trading, but making money indirectly is something you can teach it's like a teach a man to fish type thing. And that's kind of why I went down the Soonbirds route, is like I'm seeing people release projects, interacting with things on the blockchain. And now that I've interacted with it, not only have I like connected with people that have more experience and have been helping me, but like it's introducing more novel ideas of how to correct course of a lot of these things. And I think it's like you can watch tutorials till like you're blue in the face, but I think I would just implore everyone to kind of like, if this technology does move you, not just your wallet, but moves you, like there's enough documentation now to really dive in and like start messing with things. And once you break it a few times, you can come up with new ideas. But ideas are just that, they don't really move the needle. I think you have to like um, just start messing around with some stuff. And yeah, it sucks saying stuff like that. It sounds so cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, but I think this is actually a really important question, right? Because it's like you don't want to give someone the advice of buy low, high, right? It's got to be a different advice than that, because that's impossible advice to follow, and like literally impossible, because someone is smarter out there doing it better. Franklin or whatever. People who are really good at this kind of thing are going to compete it away. You can't buy low, high. So what do you actually do? And I think what you're saying is you can learn to be to have a valuable insight and skill, and that's what Dove's saying too. Like no matter what it is, you can do something to hone your craft and put yourself in a situation where other people can't just do your thing, where you can be better than the average person. Whereas being better than the average trader doesn't really work, because the best traders just suck up everything and it's game over. But there's always going to be room to be a good programmer, or a good designer. There's not always going to be room to like be a pretty good trader. There's no room to be a good trader. You have to be the best. So what do you do? So you have to extract value that's not related to buy low, high. But of course, what we've seen here is this great issue where now the SEC is looking into Yuga, which is sort of a stressful concept. And what the SEC investigation really to me says is, in addition to buy low, high being tough to do, you should now be careful about building something that is directly enabling someone else to buy low, high. So like if you're creating the Bored Ape Yacht Club, you might be being a designer and an engineer and a person, and you're not actually trading, but you are building something that maybe is a tradable asset, a security. And, that might be a problem. Now, Yuga is the big one and you're the smaller one. And so, in general, like how much should you actually worry about this, in practice? But it is something to keep in mind as we see this trend happening. This was a podcast episode last week on this very pod, which I encourage you all to listen to. It was with H. Wonder, very well timed. It was a probably overly intellectual, pod, but pretty important if you're trying to make money and think about it. But the idea is, you don't want to go out there and build something that doesn't require any trading knowledge, but that will imply to other people, hey, if you buy this, it will go up. So, what is the other option? There are two really big other options. One other option is, there are probably a lot of other options. I'm just riffing. One other option is accepting payment for performing a task. So, if you are launching a security, that's a big issue. But you're less exposed if you're being, hired by someone to perform a very specific, service. Which is not to say you should do that, but just that it's safer to perform a service, like this. So, again, there is this. But another way you can kind of look at this is, the kind of holy grail for this is fees. Like if you look at, taking a piece of a given, transaction, then, that if you'd ever build something that has a fee associated with it, that could be an alternative to launching, a security and having there be a problem. At the same time, OpenSea is getting all these fees for maybe allowing things to trade that shouldn't trade. It's a complicated landscape, basically. But I think exploring, how you can be good without being able to buy low, high is always the right, starting point. So listen to the last week episode too.
It's wild. I just got off a call with H. Wonder, and it is crazy how your guys' mindset is, I know for multiple reasons, but like in this, so aligned. We just talked about kind of the same thing that you're mentioning right now.
Yes, the only problem with builders like H-Wonder and Chopper is that they can program and they can explain things and they can do their own design and infographics, and then they don't need me to help. So if you if you don't be too good at too many things, because then I don't get to help you and then we don't get to have fun together. That's you know you got to just do
That's the real alpha.
come
Just
on,
drop the
guys.
ball on design and like let Dovetail mix the podcast for $50 a month, and you're chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, design I think is tough. I think Chopper did an amazing job with the auction house with that whole fading thing. I
Oh, it
do
was
think
great.
there is like just a tremendous, even if you can't get to that level, I think there's just a tremendous amount of value in being able to make a web page, a web page actually work, knowing React or like Angular, whatever Chopper uses. Like that is something that, just putting stuff on the screen, that is something that like actually is like very hard to
Yeah,
do, just to make a website.
remember when we were doing the V3s? I now have the boilerplate. I have the button that we were seeing.
Nice.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
whoever needs it, I have it.
Open source that, dude. Like,
Yeah,
give it
for
away
real.
for free. I think
I
that's
am
good, right?
just no, yeah. I just been talking about H-Wonder about a lot of CC0 stuff. So, getting everything together to do it as such. But yeah, like that problem that we faced, I have all the ethers connections now. I have big thanks to Yeetie too. Like actually 100%. We worked through it together. But yeah, I have like the NFT landing page boilerplate code, so I will be open sourcing it. And yeah, because it was crazy. Middlemarch was mentioning like the contract isn't the hardest work all the time.
It's
And
never the hardest part, in my
yeah,
opinion. It's always the web page.
yeah, and it's a valid point, and it's just like anything that you don't know if you don't jump down the rabbit hole, it seems like the hardest. Like Solidity for me is taking a while, but now that I see 90% of the contracts are the same, it's like, oh, all right. Um, but yeah, but I just wanted to mention that because that was exactly what you were getting at, is like a web page that works um, is extremely valuable right now, because there's a lot of people that need just that, a custom page, not some like, there's a lot of dApps, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just last month I finished up prototyping an entire website for some V3 Funk utility page, and it's all done in Figma, and we're working with Dememe Tree to get that turned into whatever that process of going from Figma to a real website is. I kind of want to learn that myself, but I'm like, so I hate coding so much. Like, there's no other time that I want to punch a computer screen or like be violent in my life ever is other than when I'm trying to learn how to code something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very,
the
very
fucking
frustrating
worst. Excuse
stuff.
me, it's the effing worst. I highly recommend now. There's a great thing for coding, which you would love, Dove. I actually know this. It's called Copilot. It's a plugin for this what text editor thing called Visual Studio Code, and basically it's like DALL-E for programming. So you start typing something, or you type a comment that just says what you're about to do, and it will just code it for you. Basically,
That's great. So if you could somehow get an AI to take a Figma prototype and program it just by looking at what it
No,
is and
dude,
being
you
able to
don't.
recognize.
There's Quest.ai. It does just that, because you know how you design things in Figma with what is it called, auto layout. If you create things with auto layout, meaning that you're adding padding, positioning, all this CSS stuff, whether it's like absolute, fixed, all these things that kind of get messy in CSS, if you design it as such in Figma, Quest.ai exports it, similar to like some CRM exports with like some wonky titling, like with your variables. But dude, I'll show you that. Like I've been helping him beta test it, and he'll give you a license. It's like,
That would be fire.
oh dude, and that's the thing. I have like it's hard for me to focus, but when something's not working, I won't leave my computer till it works, or like closer to working. So like if you have that mindset, you'll figure out coding. It's just like
Yeah, it's just that it's
if you
just
get
like
fixated and stuck on something,
I'm
coding is for you.
I'm capable of coding. I learned Solidity in like 2 months. I mean, whatever. I can do it. I'm not a dummy. I can figure it out. It's just that I would much like if I'm going to spend 18 hours a day working, I would rather be doing it in Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop rather than in Visual Studio Code. And it's
Well,
just what floats
it's also
people's.
like the if you have do you have like I don't know, just launching this product, like artistically, do you like full control?
No, dude. Well, anyway. I don't have a good answer. I said no, and then I don't. I don't really even mean that. I don't know. That's a good question. I've never
Yeah,
thought about
it's
that.
something to really unpack, because it's like if you do want everything to operate how you envision, you do have to be the full, like you mentioned, the chop, like you have to be able to do the front end
Right.
design. Yeah, so it's like it's a necessary evil.
Yeah. I mean, recently, and I just pinned it to the top, so I'm not selling anything. There's none of it's for sale. But it's kind of self shill. I've been doing a lot of AI art lately. And that's kind of the ultimate hands off. My hands are off the reins. I kind of let a computer do the driving force of the imagery, and then I just take it into Photoshop and kind of edit the saturation, edit the hues, add filters, use clone stamp tool to fix shapes, and that's kind of nice too. I think you can't be a total control freak as a person in general, whether you're an artist or a programmer or anything in between. If you want to control everything, you either have to do everything yourself, which some people are capable of doing, like Chopper here is the based dev and based designer. Um, but to some extent, you have to be hands off. AI art is
Chopper
kind of
doesn't do so much Solidity though. Sorry, Chopper, you're getting too
that's
much
true.
love. I don't know how yeah, is
That's
it
true.
is it?
Pew, 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 pew,
Yeah,
pew,
sorry,
pew.
Chopper. No, I don't know. I actually have no idea, and I'm just trying to stir the pot
Yeah.
here. But no, yeah, you can't. I want to do as little as possible. That's the funny thing, though. When I was running the Genius company, I really went through such phases of this where, there were times when I really thought it was my job to point out every single thing that was wrong, and could be, or even just could be better. And then it's, yeah, you got to let go of all of this stuff, but you also have to have a certain standard of quality for what other people are doing. It's a very complicated thing. I think the real challenge for me when it comes to the blockchain is that the contract, basically, even if it's upgradable, which I haven't done so many, it's basically forever, and that is the number one no-no in software development, where you're never ever ever supposed to try to get it right. Basically, like the meme about software development is that it's like, if bridge builders did it like programmers, then everything would be broken. It's like with software development, the meme in Web 2 is just do anything and then see what happens. Basically, we're not writing bank software here, people would say, but with a smart contract, it's supposed to actually like last a long time. And if you change it, then that's, an event anyway. So it's really hard to get that stuff right. I think, you know, another thing I mentioned in my blog post is, this notion of reentrancy attacks when it comes to sending ETH, and how like changing one line of code, the position of one line of code costs like billions of dollars, or millions at the time, but now billions, with this famous hack called the DAO hack in 2015. And, when you look at this kind of thing, you just think like, wow, like so many, is about history too, so many obvious in retrospect things that, it's like this small change. It's like, why didn't they see this? It's like impossible to be smart. There's no way to look at code using philosophy and rationality and figure out if it's good. The only way is to look at, okay, I lost $1 billion. What happened? Oh, it was simple. It's simple in retrospect. So, that's another reason to, kind of really like Ethereum as it relates to other chains and other things. It's been around long enough where, you got to think a lot of these exploits have already, happened. And so you have the benefit of that history, whereas even the most beautifully designed system that looks beautiful, it's like, if it's untested by, the crucible of experience, what do you
The Crucible.
What do you do?
That's a good word. That's what they call the final stage of Marine Corps boot camp on the East Coast. Is the Crucible. It's like anyway. That's a good word for
And you
gauntlet.
did it.
I did. I got through. I got through the Crucible. Yes.
Damn. That's intense. That's intense. Yeah, the Crucible of experience. I love that. I love that phrase. You know, it's history, philosophy.
I just
There's
shared.
also
I just shared a tweet up on the up in the nest, as Jason Klein would call it, the nest. This is pretty funny. It's funny to say. Leonidas.og says dank early pixel art like crypto skulls and V1 punks will age like fine wine. It's a pretty funny statement to say early pixel art, referring to something that was made in 2017.
well, something that you can know was made in 2017. Although even the punks, you don't actually know. You know, you can verify that it was made in 2017 by the image hash, but you don't know they were made in 2017. But you can verify it. It's funny to me, yeah, just looking at it, like the skulls do not look to me personally as it's also like, is this centered or whatever? The skulls do not to me personally look as iconic as the punks,
No.
but
No. Well, the other funny thing is that you can buy traditional art, digital and physical, and traditional. Is it traditional or physical? Same thing. When I say traditional, I mean physical and etc. There is traditional and digital art of pixel art from 2 decades prior to 2017. So, is the fact that it's an NFT important? In 10 years, will it even be notable that something was an NFT, or is it? I think I like to think of NFTs as just like a tool. It's just like a financial instrument. So I don't know how important it
yeah,
is.
it's like it's a new meme, and so it's just a new meme is really what an NFT is to me. And so it's like, when was there like another new meme? Like the computer was a big one, and so like if you look at the pixel art embodied in the icons on the original Mac, I feel like I've read like articles about them, and they're like cool, like they're still kind of like iconic, like the way the Mac icon looks, just like the icon that represents the Mac itself is sort of iconic. These are like what I think of, when I hear early pixel art, and I bet you could have a project that was like a big blown up version of the icons from the original Mac, and that would be like probably age pretty well. So I think I read that tweet as being more about like early experiments with the NFT meme will age like fine wine, which I don't know the truth of that, but I do think that it's
Yeah.
the V1
No.
punks thing. Just you go.
Okay. This is something I was going to say before we kind of started the thing, which is that normally when you're talking about being early to something in any sort of art movement, in any long lasting, meaningful art movement of the last millennium, they last a couple decades, right? At least 2 or 3, at least 1 to 3 decades. Early is usually just defined as like the first half, or if you want to say an early Renaissance painting, that could be anywhere between it's like a 50-year batch of time. You know what I'm saying? So to say that the only
And
early or historical
I
NFTs are the ones
think,
that were made in the first 6 months, it's like no, like the first 5 years, the first decade of NFTs, I think will, in 100 years be considered early. It's just like a
and I
weird. I
think
don't like the distinction.
especially the early ones in art are not often the most famous ones. Like early Renaissance is, I think, not the most important or not the highlights of
Right.
Renaissance.
Right. There's a painting. God, I'm blanking on the artist name, but there's a painting called "The Impressionist," and that's the start of the Impressionist art movement. Was that painting? Was it Claude Monet? Is that who I'm thinking of? I think so. Anyway, no one cares
Yeah.
about that painting. They care
So
about
wait,
the.
Leonidas is now pumping the early Renaissance. You're saying he's trying to like pump that
Yeah, I mean, it's like a meaningless thing. Like,
No, what I'm saying there's like I'm being jocular here. I'm saying the idea of Linus, like, you know, your image of him on Twitter, like really trying to like pump early Renaissance paintings, like trying to say like, no, this is the best one.
yeah,
This is
yeah. I mean,
being
okay,
jocular.
it's like if you, man, I don't know. Anyway, NFTs
I
are
put
not
the icon,
historic.
by the way. Look at this icon at the top of the thing. Do we consider this early pixel art? The high Mac thing?
I think so. What year was that?
Good question.
That's
What
100%
year?
pixel art.
But was it early?
What would make you suggest that that's not pixel art?
I think the really early pixel art are mosaics. Isn't that like the earliest pixel art?
Wow, yeah, there's that one where they're at the
Greek
river.
mosaic?
What's that called? Surat. They got see, I know a little bit about art. They got the Surat. What about that? It's from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Sorry, Dove. This is ancient history to you. You know what I'm talking about with the pointillism thing. But yeah, the mosaics, the pointillism. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, what it and I think it's also, I think, just a very core, you know, notion of the concept of Gestalt, you know, the whole being more than the sum of its parts. There's a lot of famous, you know, instances of this in art as well. The
Yeah,
skull
yeah.
meme.
It's, I don't know. I guess I've already said everything that I have to say that I think is meaningful about the subject of historical NFTs. But really, just think about in 20 years, it's not going to be only 2017 that's regarded as historical. Historical can be the first decade. You know, crypto skulls aren't really that interesting. They don't really have a good story. They didn't break any ground in art style or anything. So be wary of these kind of narratives that get spun up around certain projects. I guess that's if I would leave anything for this podcast and for this space, I think that would be it.
Well, the early Renaissance point. I mean, again, it's like the history question, right? Of what you're saying, like concrete examples of when Dove's advice would have served you well versus concrete examples of when Dove's advice would have served you poorly. So in the early Renaissance, if Dove came to you and said, listen, I guess what year is this? This is like what, 1400, 15? I don't know. In the early Renaissance, if Dove had given this advice, Dove would have been correct. Now, of course, all those paintings are still worth a lot of money, but you know, the power of compound interest, anything you kept around for that period of time would have been worth a lot. But in other more recent eras of art, you know, if you look at, you know, I don't know, pop art. Did anyone besides Andy Warhol do pop art? Like 20th century
Oh yeah.
art movements. Were the would Dovetail's advice have made you money or lost you money, or kept you exactly the same, or had no effect whatsoever?
It would be helpful in every art movement for the last 1,000 years. Because the thing I want to push back on your point that any Renaissance painting is money now. There's a lot of early Renaissance paintings that aren't worth any money because they are by artists who no one knows, or they did not have a very prolific history of painting. They only painted 5 things, or they painted 100 things, but none of them were very good or notable. They didn't do the style well, and they didn't have an interesting story. And so it's cool to own those early Renaissance paintings, but they are only worth, you know, 1/100th of what the good stuff is worth. 100th is even generous.
Yeah, I mean, I think also when it comes to that, like, did people even know it was the Renaissance then or something? But like with more, you know, I think the Leninist tweet, could that have happened during the I mean, that could have happened in other. Give me the Tory of 20th century. What happened in the 20th century when it came to these movements? Like, are there? I mean, I guess the whole point is you can't identify something that's not worth anything, because if you could identify it at all, you know, it's because you know it and it's worth something. So there's a sort of, you know, tweeting the delete about the Queen thing going on here as well. But at least with the 20th century, we probably can look up, like, hey, who else was in, you know, Warhol's Rolodex or whatever. Like, you know, we can probably get a better sense. With the Renaissance, you can't know the unknown people, but with the 20th century, maybe you can know, you know, something more about it? Is there a way to, drill down into this? Because at some point it made sense to buy all this stuff, even though it looked like something my kid could do, that kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you just want to look at the 20th century, I mean, it started really with the thread that I would draw. I'm not a professional art historian, but I know a couple things. The 20th century started with the Ashcan School out of New York City. They were drawing a little bit more abstract. They were drawing real things, and it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't pretty, and it was kind of it was trashy. And that was very new at the time. And there's 8 artists who are really known as leading the Ashcan School. Closing out the 20th century, you had artists like Warhol and Basquiat. Now, if you look at whose art is worth more in the 20th century, Basquiat and Warhol, their paintings are worth more than anyone who painted in the 20th century, I think. I think that's, easy to say. There are early 2000s artists who are outpacing the sales records of early 20th century painters. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So you can look at the
Something to
20th
consider.
century of art and, want to hear what Piv says, but here's my knowing even less than anyone here. You can look at the 20th century of art, basically in modernism. It's like, not so much about, showing the exact perfect thing, but like not even 20th century art, like 20th century art is going to be the darker version of like Impressionism and like the Monet thing, right? Point being, you're trying to just be a little more like out there with it. And the early out there people are not as expensive as the later more out there people. These Ashcan School dudes aren't better than Basquiat just because they were early. Basquiat's better because he was more out there and had a better story and all this kind of stuff. And so likewise, you just don't get that much credit for being first. And this is, of course, the case of the history and philosophy of science, which I know a little bit more about. It's just not that good to be the stepping stone. Basquiat stepping on your head to accept $200 million. I mean, not him personally, but his collector to accept $200 million. I don't know, Pip, what is your thought on this? You know more about it than I do.
No, I had to think about Koolhaas again, the architect. We talked about him before, and he said about architecture, but also about art, that you invent something, and then someone comes along who makes it nice, the thing that you invented, and it was like saying that someone improves your idea and get famous with it. And I think that's often true, yes.
Right. So there's just no way to tell on the basis of earliness, when it comes to, for example, a technology, driven, meme like the NFT. And of course, we all know that, right? Because if it were possible to know it, then it would be priced in anyway. So, it's like, there is there's a very famous saying when it comes to historical NFTs, and that saying is there's no such thing as a historical NFT that won't age like fine wine. It's just what is the price. It's like there's no bad NFT. There's just bad prices. This is actually from the bond world. There's no such thing as a bad bond, just a bad price. So even if the thesis is true that these will age like fine wine, then that doesn't mean to buy them, right? Like that doesn't mean that I think even Dove, if a V1 Punk were available for sale for 1 Ether, Dove would buy it. Even the hater Dove. Is that right, Dove?
No, I would not buy a V1 Punk for
You
1
broke
ETH.
up there a little. This is important.
Today.
You would not buy a V1 Punk for
No.
1 ETH.
No. Today.
I'm in shock. Would you buy it? Okay. So here's, obviously you would buy it for 1 ETH if you could sell it tomorrow. But suppose there is a 5-year lockup. What is your price to buy it? 3-year lockup.
I don't know. I'm not in a position where I'm very interested in buying any NFT. I mean, it's probably at that point you're not asking about the value of the art. You're just asking about a dollar amount that is inconsequential to me, like living my life.
Forget because dollars. Like I agree, you probably shouldn't buy anything for any amount of money. Just all this stuff's just made up or whatever. But if you were to bet, okay, in 3 years, I would like a number where you are 90% confident that the V1 Punk floor will be at or above that number in 3 years? We should do a forever message about this. We should do a forever message about this. Then you can really frickin' see.
Yeah, we can take a bet. I mean, okay, so let's try to find a number that I think it'll be under and you think it'll be over, and then we can make a forever message bet about it.
Well, whatever you say, I will take the bet because it's a meme now. So just be, be kind.
Today I would buy a V1 Punk for. God, this is hard. I don't know, 0.2 ETH? Is that hard?
Okay, so I'll take the over, and let's bet on it. How much would you bet on this?
I'll bet you 5 Yunks and 5 Cyberfunks, which will be worth way more than the V1 Punks if I'm thinking correctly here.
So we're denominating it in Yunks. Okay, this is well, what about the counterparty risk there? How do I know you will be able to buy 5 Yunks and fulfill that? We have to escrow these Yunks. We have to escrow the Yunks.
Yeah, we need an escrow account. I don't know. Look,
so maybe this is a good,
I'm not willing to take long-term bets because I don't think that punks are art. So I'm not buying a collectible for any amount of. I don't buy collectibles. I don't buy Pokemon cards. I don't buy limited edition things. I don't buy, fancy statues. I don't buy anything. I don't buy any. I don't. It's not my thing. I don't.
Well, the irony here is if they're not art and they're collectibles, that's way better than being not art and securities. So you are actually saying a very bullish thing about that.
Well, no, because I'm saying it's not art. So I don't know. Look, V1 Punks, great. Have fun. Do it. I don't even like V2 Punks. They're cool. They were early. Are they significant artistically? No. They don't do anything.
Are they going to go up, or where are they going to be? We have to bet on this. Otherwise, this is the same thing as the Queen tweet. Otherwise, you can just change your opinion in a month.
1 year, so October 13, 2023, they will be worth less than half an ETH. That's the dovetail bet.
Okay, so should we build? Does anyone know of a DApp or just a contract that does this kind of thing where you can, I believe that Pauly famously bet 50 grand that Funks would flip Punks, which still might happen, by the way. We have time left. It doesn't look amazing, but it was certainly an iconic bet, an amazing move. And I think he used a person in an informal basis to escrow this. Does anyone know of a smart contract where you can designate a judge, let's call this person Piv, and you can say, okay, at this point, the judge has to either say A or B is a winner, right? We say judge is an oracle, so it's trustful, but judge says A or B is a winner. If A is a winner, then the prize goes to A, and if B is a winner, the prize goes to B, and then there's some thing in the contract that says, what the criteria are.
I would say someone should build it, but I feel like it's probably... Well, actually, no, because there's a Web2 website that lets you do this for presidential candidacies. You can bid on who's going to become the president, and that's apparently legal somehow. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't build a Web3 version of that.
Well, maybe you're not talking about this, but there's Predict It, which is there's like a prediction market, which is that's infinitely more cool and cooler than this. And
there's an idea. We should build Web3 Predict It. That's an idea. That's free. So
I'm just talking about a bet, though.
By coming to Capsule 21 podcast today, you got a free multi-million-dollar idea. That's your reward for listening to us for the last hour and 50 minutes.
It's actually good. How could you Predict It? Of course, uses the standard centralized order book model. So you'd want to do like an AMM Uniswap type thing, and you could have the Oracle in there. I'm sure this has been done, but what is that? Now, what I would want to do, because the bet is simpler though, it's just on or off, but then what I could do, you could go then and hedge the bet or sell the bet or something. That could be another platform on top of this, but maybe that's a security, but it's a cool thing. Like the bet could be an NFT where the holder of the NFT is each side of the bet could be an NFT, right? So the holder of that NFT is the beneficiary. So you can sell. Now, is this a security? Now you could sell your side of the bet, Dove, when you want money, or I could sell my side when I want money, or I could take my side and go to NFT Bank, get it appraised, and take it a loan against my side. So this is the magic of Web3.
This is good. I like this. You can sell your, that's interesting. That seems illegal. I would have to ask a lawyer about that before I put my name on it, but that's a fun idea.
Yeah, and then we take a effing fee. We win no matter what. This is brilliant.
Perfect. I'm sitting here rubbing my hands together. Yes, perfect. This is the best
idea. So let me just Google right now, Web3 predicted. Okay. First thing that comes up is a September 26th article on McKinsey.com, the potential of Web3. Great, McKinsey's into it. While buffeted by the downturns and bankruptcies, digital assets and the technology underlying them still have potential to transform business models across sectors. Okay, you all are welcome. You heard it here first. McKinsey is a big consulting firm, and it's funny because this is a whole long article, and now that I wrote a Medium article today, I can kind of see this side of things. And let me just tell you, someone put a lot of work into this article. So that's the beauty of being a writer yourself, is that you know the craft. That's what I really know today. Web3 prediction market. I'm Googling right now. If anyone has something here.
Anyway, long story short, I'm very bearish on all things that are currently being labeled as historical. I think it's a load of bollocks. I think it's a marketing scheme. I think it's a pump, and I'm personally not buying into it. And not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy anything. I'm not telling you to sell anything. But Dovetail's opinion is that historical NFTs are kind of a scam, kind of a little.
Yes. At the same time,
tricky.
Dove, you are telling people what to do. You're telling people to bet against them with me, and you are doing that. So you are telling people to buy something. You're telling, there's no way to tell someone to be totally neutral. If you don't like it, you got to short it. And here is your chance. So everyone out there in Podland, if you know how to do what I'm talking about, because if no one has done this, I would be absolutely shocked, because it's a pretty basic and cool idea. So please don't make me do it. But if I have to, I will. And by the next pod, you will see a very big money bet with me and Dove, which will, and this is recorded, so I can just say it is a 0.5 floor. So if punks, V1 punks, as they are called, now, of course, there's many rappers or whatever, but, this will be, as judged by Piv, so obviously he's going to do a fair job. If V1 punks are above 0.5 floor, then Dove gets 5 Yunks and 5 Cyberfunks, and otherwise I get it. And if they're exactly 0.5 floor, it's a push. Okay, how about that? It's a push. You know what? In that case, Dub wins. Now, which punks they are and which Yunks they are will be done in a secure. We'll agree on them. I guess they're gonna have to be mine or Dove's. We'll purchase them on the Cyberfunk thing. We'll mint the Yunks are easy. We'll just mint the Yunks directly, and we'll figure it out. So we're gonna make this bet. Dove, are these terms acceptable to you?
Yes, I like these terms. I think that I will win.
And then, what is the floor on Yunks going to be, baby? Because these are...
I can't say a number. Look, my legal team told me that I can't say a number, but it's astonishing.
Yeah, it might be terrible, actually, but it is astonishing either way. But yeah, that's art. Dove is a Zillennial, so he's got a lot of gas in the tank, which is good. So pay attention to him. Piv and I have certain wisdom or whatever, and some gas too. So pay attention to us. Everyone out there who is building, keep doing it. Everyone out there who is buying low and highing, do not do that. Sell. I am literally serious. I received some ETH today. I sold it. Sell the ETH. Sell the NFTs if you can. Not because they're bad and not because they're good, because you don't know better than the market. The market is too powerful. Instead, you should build and learn. And we can help you. So join us, capsule21.com, discord.gg/capsule21. There's also a Twitter group chat if you're not in it, and you are going to only shill your project the exact way he wants. Dove can let you in it. This has been an episode of the Capsule 21 podcast filmed in front of a live Spaces audience. If you want to be part of this pod, join us next week or any week, Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. We are nothing without our pod listeners. And if you're listening to this, that means we're nothing without you and anyone else that you're also listening to it with right now. Any final words from, starting with Piv? Piv, are you down to officiate this bet?
Yeah, sure.
Boom.
Well,
Final words.
No, will we write this forever message about it?
I will. That's a good question. Jeez Louise. I guess I have to program a smart contract to do it.
We can get in the weed. We can figure it out. We'll get the
but the answer is the thing's going to be escrowed. So no, a forever message won't work. The prize is
no, but I just meant the terms of it.
Oh, you already meant
of the bet.
Okay, great, perfect, awesome.
Yeah, we can either do forever message. Yeah, we do forever message. Why not? Yeah, I think that's good. Let's push the we're going to push the brand. Yes.
Okay, dovetail closing thoughts. God save the Queen.
Whew. Respect. And I think I might put forever message on capsule21.com now. That's my new closing thought. Sorry, I jumped the line here. Okay. We are done. Thank you all so much. See you next week.